Hey everybody, I want to show y'all how to make a little mushroom like this. I'm just using polymer clay. The colors that I have on hand, and really that's not like particularly the important part, but I have some tan Sculpey, some white translucent, and then some glow in the dark clay. This was a Fimo brand, I think. Yeah, it was Fimo FX. It's a really hard clay, but it gives a very gentle glow to the color blend that we're working on. And I'm making like a whole batch of little mushrooms that I'm going to be using later on in one of my fairy houses that I'm doing. I don't know if this one's going to be for giving away or for selling, if somebody decides that they want to purchase it for themselves. But I was in a mood to make some little mushrooms. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by rolling out. It's probably not quite equal proportions, like maybe 2-1-1, 2 of the glow, 1 of the white translucent, and 1 of the tan, to give us, my lighting in here is all messy, so but to give us that nice kind of glowing flesh toned mushroom color, like button mushroom. And really this is your creation, so make it whatever color you want, but again, I'm just showing you and telling you how I made mine. These are some of the bases that I have made already. And the reason why I say base is because we're actually going to go through and bake the base and then add on a cap. Like this goes through 3 levels of baking. So we'll get there. So I'm just rolling my clay out. You can use a pasta machine or whatever you like. I want to make sure though that it's nice and put together. And so we have a log here, and I'm going to start by, where's my anvil at? You can use the corner of a book or the corner of your work surface or just whatever you have, but I'm going to come about 1/3 of the way in from the end and start pressing together, and I'm using the edge of the anvil, remove the pet hair, to do this like little notched line. Just kind of squishing it down. So you can almost take it and just roll like that. Being real careful to keep the stem centered. But I mean, this by itself, boom, you've got a mushroom. But we want to get artsy-fartsy with it, so let's do that. I'm gonna set my anvil off to the side, and now this lip that we've made, I'm actually gonna come through and I'm just pinching it with my fingers like this to taper that end out. And this one's gonna be the largest one of the batch that I'm making. And you want just like a little nub up there at the top, because whenever you attach the cap, it's that little nub, if you can see, that keeps the cap kind of elevated away from the rest of it. The tools I'm using here, I have a porcupine quill. You could use just a regular old needle tool. I have this wire brush, if you can see there. It's just a clay sculpting tool. You could make your own with just a bunch of like scrap 26 gauge wire. But this is great for adding in some texture. And then I have a couple of ball stylus tools. These ones are double-ended, which I find really, really nice and helpful. So I'm going to come through first with the little wire brush, and I'm just going to, starting from the center and then brushing out towards the edge, get some texture going. Now, I'm trying to keep them parallel-ish to each other, because you don't want to come through and do some just across it like that, that doesn't look right. If that happens, you can just go back over it. And also at this point in the project, don't hesitate at all to just smush it all together and start over. It's never too late to do that. I know sometimes artistically you'll feel like, no, I've put too much work into this, I'm just going to go with how it's going. So that's how that little bit of texture is coming along. Now we're going to flip it over, and I'm going to texture the stem or trunk of the mushroom. I'm not modeling after any particular variety or species of mushroom, but I do want it to look kind of convincing, though, that to someone who's not particularly familiar with mushrooms, they might think, wow, that looks real, you know? Because that's, I think with a lot of different fantasy artwork, that's part of what makes it so cool, is making it convincing. You can add a little twist in there if you want, I mean, just however makes you happy. And now you can see I've textured the stem just a little bit. I need to add a texture to the like gills, kind of, to the underside here. We're going to do the same thing that we did on the top, but I'm trying to kind of gently swipe down. And this is quite floppy, but you'll see what'll happen as it goes. You could, if you want a nice long stemmed mushroom, you could reinforce it with a piece of like armature wire, or just like over here I have some scrap pieces of 18 gauge wire that I could kind of feed up through the stem. But I'm gonna make this one kind of short and squat, so I'm not gonna worry about that so much right now. And then you can also practice coming in from the other direction a little bit, and this is really going to texture up the lip there. You see how that happens? And you can really, I mean, experiment with different texturing. That's a little too like down from what I'd like, so I'm gonna open it back up, brushing this way. And now I'm actually going to be going through with the porcupine quill and just add some kind of larger, deeper lines. Trying really hard to not smush all the detailing that I have done down with my fingers. And I find that it does help to have a nice gradient of sizes, because if you look at the bark on a tree, or the veining of a plant, or you know, in this case very particularly the gills of a mushroom, they're not all the same width, length, depth. There's a lot of character going on there. I'm gonna try to get the hair out of this piece. Hey baby girl, how's it hanging? And so you can kind of see, I'm just gonna do a couple of lines. Drawing it gently from the trunk to where this gilly part . And I'm going to try to taper out the edge of this mushroom cap, like, well, it's not the cap, but the edge of this just a little bit more. And so now from here, I'm going to remove more pet fur. I want to kind of smush it down, because it was getting a little necky there. And I'm just using my fingers to kind of squash it, make it a little squatter. And that's our little mushroom. Now it has these texture lines from being smushed vertically, so I'm going to go back through and add in some fresh texture lines Maybe roll it out a little bit. Maybe put some twists in there. I mean, really give this a lot of character, you guys. This is your creation. Make it how, you know, how it speaks to you. And then to get those lines out, I'm just re-smooshing with my fingers because there's no sense in I don't want there to be any giveaways. You know, I don't want people to look at it and be like, oh, I see there where she made that be that way. I want it to kind of be a mysterious creation that just looks like it kind of grew that way, if that makes sense. I don't want people to see where I started or where I finished. And I don't even really want it to look finished. I want it to look like a living, breathing little fungi. So here we go. We've got the cap kind of like this. And then you can detail it even further. I'm going to move this down just a bit more so that you can kind of see what's going on. I have my ball tool, and I'm going to pull down and then up and then down and then up and then down and then up. Kind of just grabbing and jerking the edge of this to help push and pull it. There we go. Just around like that. So now I'm going to position it just again. Just like that. And now for this next detailing, I'm going to come through here and use some chalk pastels or eyeshadow if you have that. Eyeshadow tends to have a little bit of a shimmer to it, and hey Randy, could you let the dogs out? Thank you. Eyeshadow can tend to have a little shimmer to it, and that's not what I'm going for with these mushrooms right now. So I am going to use chalk pastels, and so I have a dark brown and a tan, and I'm just going to shave some of the chalk here onto my work surface. You could do this onto a piece of paper. Some folks have little containers that they do them into, like little vials and bottles and things. I want to have two separate piles because I want to try. Oh gosh, that makes my teeth itch. I want to be able to mix at my leisure. And then I'm actually going to be using this makeup brush. Kind of nice and clean. And I'm going to come through. Again, remove more dog fur. And I'm going to start with my lighter color. And just kind of dab and tap. Because I want it in the brush, but not like so much that that it just globs on the color. I want to build the color in gently. And you can see that's just starting to do a little bit of tinting. I'm going to come through with the brown now, closer, much closer to just the bottom. And just really stacking and layering it on. And now you can also always come through after doing a little bit of color and add in some deeper texture. Because what that will do is it will expose the lighter contrasting clay underneath and just look kind of neat, I think. So please do experiment with coloring and texturing and different things of that sort. And now I'm getting more of my light color, and I'm just going to kind of brush in from the top. And you can go across the grain of the gills as well. Just however you feel makes you happy. This is a really nice, like, kind of gentle flesh tone color of chalk. And I do this in real time instead of just fasting forward through it. That way you can really get a sense of how much time this project does take. I know that for myself, especially whenever I was beginning, moving over to my darker brown, whenever I was beginning doing projects and stuff like this, I felt like such a noob and such a novice, and it really helped whenever I could see not just the 3-minute ultra tailored perfection videos of these crafters just being masters of their art. It was really nice to see people who were capable of creating intricate and impressive things take their sweet time about it and mess up and recover and just be human like the rest of us. So I do want to present to you that this is something that's very accessible and achievable. I really do feel like if I can do it, you can do it. And if I can do it, you can do it well. If that makes sense. I hope that's encouraging. That's something that I probably could have used to hear whenever I was first getting into polymer clay, because I was downright awful whenever I first got, but I had fun, and that's the point. I'm going to go through and add just another layer of texturing. This just kind of blurs the lines a little bit of the brush strokes. It leaves the tinting and contrasting in there. There we go. So now we're gonna take this and I'm gonna go bake it at, let's say 275 for about 15 minutes. And then I'll meet you all back here. Sorry, just adding more texture still. I'll meet you all back here, guys. So at this stage, we have something that is definitely, this looks like the mushroom, but we want to take it a step further to do a fancy mushroom. So I have some more clay mixed up here. I'm just going to go ahead and move that down. And this is the same proportion, 2-part glow in the dark, 1 part tan, 1 part white translucent. And I'm just going to rip off maybe a large marble size. Use your own discretion, the size of your mushroom base. this mushroom base is not going to have as big a cap as this mushroom base. Or it might. It's replicating something from nature, so there's no like wrong way to do it, if that makes sense. So we're just going to roll out a ball, and I am going to take it and flatten it, if I can. Nope, that camera angle doesn't quite work, does it? I'm just faking it till I'm making it, or at least trying to. There we go, that's much better. So we have our ball here, and I'm going to start flattening it out just with my fingers. Just getting kind of this domed effect. And you can kind of pet your clay, say nice things to it. But no, petting it will actually burnish out some of the fingerprinting. But with the way that we're going to be doing the glaze on the top, you don't have to worry about that as much. Okay, so now we have our shape, and I'm just going to kind of lift it up off of our work surface. Redistribute the clay. So here you can just see, it's just like that. Now from here, I'm going to come through and kind of pinch and taper the edge, just with my thumb, giving it a little bit more of that mushroom cap shape. I'm going to flip it over, and using just the brush, the end of my brush, kind of dimpling and imprinting the inside, because it's going to be sitting on top like that. And so from there, I'm actually just pinching like this. It's pulling and drawing out our mushroom cap even more. And I'm just kind of practicing distributing, you know, keeping that part up in the top and center nice and shaped the way that I want. And now I'm going to go through starting from the center and just pulling out towards the edge. And I go by pretty quickly, like I'm doing this rapidly, just because I've made like a lot of these, and I've had lots of practice. But if it helps you to kind of draw it across slowly, place and pull, then by all means do that. And I'm starting to like throw flakes and everything here, so don't worry about displacing chunks of clay or little flecks of clay. It'll get there. And you can see here, just the way I'm holding it gives me full access to all parts. And I really like to draw down to the edge of my mushroom. And now from here, I'm going to use my porcupine quill to add some deeper lines, some dimensions, some depth. This really, I feel like, gives me a sense of say. It's pretty late in the day and I'm kind of tired. But a dimension, another layer of realism, you know, to our mushroom. So now we have those. I'm actually going to take this and open it up some. Blend those lines in a little bit more with this wire brush tool. Okay, uncurl my hand, take off all that. And so now here you can see that's the top part of the mushroom, that's the bottom part of the mushroom. I'm gonna replace it back on my hand. I really like this as a, it doesn't collapse down any detailing that I've done on the top. I mean, this one doesn't have a whole lot of detailing on it, but you know what I mean. I'm gonna shape it down a little bit more, make it a little bit more concave, and I'm just gonna use more of this, the chalk pastels in these two colors that I had scraped off, that I have from doing the stems, and I'm just going to brush the edge. And I'm going in kind of perpendicular to the texturing of my mushroom. And what this is doing is it's really pulling out the highlights. And I start whenever I have the most pigment on my brush here towards the edge. You could start towards the middle and then kind of work your way out. Just my tip here is to be consistent. You know, if you don't want it lighter on the edge in one spot and then darker towards the edge in the other, you know, kind of alternating. Or you do, you know, try it out. It might look really cool. And worst case scenario, you just smush it all together and remake it. Excuse me. Please pardon me. I'm sorry. I try to not have a whole lot of bodily functions on camera, but all this chalk dust just everywhere. And I'm just layering more on. Kind of wish my lighting were a little better, that way you could see what's going on, but it's winter and there's not a whole lot of sunlight this time of year where I live, so that's what we're working with. I have 4 lamps going, so there's that. And now from here we can actually take a little dab of liquid polymer clay. Sorry, the dogs were wrestling. Hey. Stop fighting, y'all. Be a good boy, okay? Good boy. I've got some of the liquid polymer clay here, and this is the baked stem. And so I'm just going to not glob it on, but pretty generously apply this liquid polymer clay to the top of the cap, or top of the stem, where I'm then going to be placing the cap on. Just like that. Now I actually think I want a little bit more height between, no, I guess that'll be good. Yeah, I think that'll be great, because then when people see it, they'll be like, oh, how did you get that detail in there? Then underneath the cap, and it's like, I did it in 2 parts. Try to remove all the little dog hairs and things like that. And I'm just doing some last little primping and adjusting. And that's our little mushroom. So I'm going to put this in the oven and we're going to bake it for another 15 minutes at 275 to get this cap nice and taken care of. You know, honestly, before baking it, this one I baked in 3 phases, but I had tried doing like a pastel color. We can probably go ahead and just do it in 2. So this one you'll see won't stand up on its own. It falls right over. So I just have this cookie cutter that I'm going to set my mushroom in, or try to. Oh, that's not gonna work. Maybe a different sized cookie cutter. Yeah, this one's just a little too top heavy. So try to brace it if you can. I also might just take a little ball of clay and give it a foot. So now it'll stay standing. If all else fails, sacrifice more clay. And from here, I actually save the lids to plastic water bottles specifically for this purpose. So you'll want your liquid clay, a toothpick, a compartment to mix in, and then whatever assortment of chalk colors. To get this color here, I just did this kind of pinkish red and light orange. I'm going to do another one that has a little bit of a lemony yellow mixed into it. And I'm going to take this and just mix it. Where'd my craft knife go? There it is. Shave the chalk directly into the cap. And you really want this to be nice and rich in pigment. You don't want to skimp. Unless that's what you're going for. But in today's, more is better. This would also work really well with Pearl X pigment powders. I'm going to do a little bit more orange. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. And so now I'm going to take some nice generous globs. I'm actually going to ooze some out of the end here. And just kind of, just like that. And then I'm going to start mixing. And you want to mix pretty thoroughly. And if you want all of your mushroom caps in a project to match, you could do them all at once. But I'm pretty okay with these different mushrooms having different cap colors, so long as they're all in the same spectrum. And I'm kind of globbing it out. And then it's like decorating a cake. You just try to evenly distribute this glaze that we've mixed up without exceeding past the edge too much. Trying to stay nice and uniform about it. Just kind of pulling it towards the edge. It's okay if there's some little chunks of, very little chunks of the chalk pastel in this glaze, because then it'll give it a freckling effect on the mushroom cap. Set that down. Got a little bit more left in the cap. And I save these little bottle caps because they are so disposable. And this stuff is prone to making a mess, so I'm glad to have something that would have gotten thrown away or recycled anyhow. Just touching up some of the thinner spots with the glaze. And then we are going to take this and bake it in our toaster oven for 15 more minutes at 275. And I'm sure also, if you felt inclined, let's see if I can't get a slightly better camera angle here, but I'm gonna see what happens if I take just this undyed liquid polymer clay and just leave little spots. I'm sure you could experiment and do a lot of really interesting little glaze textures. Just by spotting it on there. Maybe spotting it and then pulling it. That looks so cool. Doing little starburst patterns or swirls. Yeah, I'm gonna do a couple more and then we'll see how this bakes out. Nothing like a little natural variation, I think, to make it nice and interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna go bake this and then I will meet you guys right back here. So it's actually the next day because I put the mushrooms in to bake and then fell asleep. So this is how they came out though. Like that's the way the top came out looking. That's the underside. So let me know down in the comments area, how did you like it? Like how did your mushroom turn out? Do you have any requests for future tutorials? It's kind of challenging to post a video every day and keep like the content like going, especially since it's winter and there's nothing growing outside except for like rabbit poop, which anyways, but yeah, focus. If you guys have any questions or comments or ideas, please do feel free to contact me. If you'd like to support the continued free tutorials and daily uploads and things like that, as well as participate in my fairy house giveaway, please check out the Patreon link down below. As well as there might be popping up on the screen a support of Ellen Williams button, just however you like. All of the proceeds of that go towards fueling the artisan education I try to do at conventions whenever I teach panels and workshops, as well as providing you know, the tools and materials to teach y'all how to do these things that we do together. So I hope y'all have a fantastic day, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.